So, a friend of mine, Gene, came and called me a couple of days ago and said I was going to be in London around the 11th to the 13th. I said, yeah. He said, you should join me. So I said, okay. And I met Gene came in after I set forth on this mission to change the ghetto that I'm from, because I saw this movie called Waiting for Superman. And Waiting for Superman tells you about the educational system in America. I got to this place because I wanted to move my mom out the projects. And that Waiting for Superman movie is about the projects that my mom and I grew up in. The school system is bad. People were riddled with drugs and obesity and diabetes. And a lot of my friends ended up in prison and dead. So the thing that saved my life was music and the school that my mom sent me to since I was 7 years old, Brentwood Science Magnet School. And I told myself that I wanted to take care of my mom and move her out the projects. And when I accomplished that, and then moved my aunt and my grandma, because that was my drive and the reason why I chose to do music. And musicians are always, called upon for earthquake relief, tsunami relief, political rallies to endorse the president. But we always ignore the ghettos we come from, because that's a crisis every day. Every day someone dies of drug overdoses or heart failure due to things that big corporations, promote. And there's no education on wellness. There's no education on finance. And we just stay there. And this world thinks about the third world and developing countries. Meanwhile, people in the ghetto are not developed. And if they were to dare to live in a third world country, they would collapse. So sustainability is not just, an outreach is not just for third world and developing, but because the ghettos get ignored. So I watched this movie called Waiting for Superman. I'm like, wow, that's really sad. But the sad thing is the title, not what's happening. It's the fact that they're waiting for Superman and not the Royal Academy and NAE and engineers and scientists and engineers and mathematicians. They're waiting for this fictitious character with tights and a cape. So it's like, wow, am I supposed to be Superman? Because my mom went to that school. I met a lot of super people. Maybe Dean Cameron could bring his first program, and I could do what I can to inspire kids to want to become scientists, engineers, mathematicians, and technicians. What can I do? Oh, hey Dean, can I make a TV program about your first program? So I went with a documentary crew and big stage and threw a concert right in the middle of the first competition and turned it into a TV program. And he's like, how are you going to get time? So I called ABC myself and bought time on ABC and took the risk. Because who's going to take the risk? We could just complain all day and talk to ourselves. And engineers and smart, intelligent people could look at popular people and be like, oh, why would I want to collaborate with him? I want to talk to humans. So I set forth on this mission to do that. And that TV show, because when you buy time on ABC, it's not like they promote your show. So I had to promote it myself, so I promoted it on Twitter and Facebook. And we were up against a giant. And the show still got a #2 rating for a back-to-school program in August. And then Dean called me on the phone. He was like, you wouldn't believe who just called me yesterday after they saw your show. I'm like, who? Charlie Bolden from NASA. Are you serious? He's like, yeah. He's going to call you right there. So he calls me on the phone. He's like, wow. In all my years of supporting FIRST, I've never seen it on a popular level like that on national television. That show was amazing. Do you want to come down to JPO and talk to some of the scientists to help us out in our effort to get kids into STEM? I'm like, sure. So I sat there and I'm like, first off, STEM's a bad name. You should call it STEAM and put arts in it. If you want to create teams of STEAM. So it's technology, engineering, arts, math, and science. And science, technology, engineering, arts, and math. And create a movement around it. So, because if the NBA could, spend a whole lot of money to make kids want to play basketball to the point where you're walking through high school and you see a basketball court, that court is synonymous with a company, and that company is basketball. Same with the football field, and the baseball field, and the basketball. But when you pass by that science class, you don't know what company is connected to it. Just thinking from the kid's point of view. When you pass by the engineering class, you don't know what company is connected to it. Companies are important when it comes to kids wanting to be things, especially nowadays. So I was like, let me do all I can. What do you use music for? You use music to raise awareness. But you don't want to talk about it in your songs. You want to do things when you have success. So I'm sitting there at NASA talking about teams of STEAM, and so I'm like, so what do you guys got coming up? He said, we got a rocket that we're sending to Mars. So I'm like, hey, why don't you have a concert at a rocket launch? He said, you know how loud it is at a rocket launch. I said, you know how loud it is at a rock concert. But for safety reasons, we couldn't put a stage next to the rocket. So I said, when the rocket lands, doesn't it sit and say, go back? Can we hitch a ride? Can a song hitch a ride on the rocket so when the rocket lands, it can beam back to Earth? So that, media could talk about a song hitching a ride and being beamed back from a different planet. So they said, who's going to write the song? I was like, I'll write it. So that happened. I'm like, wow, that's amazing. But the sad thing is, more has to be done in popular culture. And it has to be done from you guys. Right? You guys have to see the importance of outreaching and corralling funds to compete with your competitors. Your competitors aren't other scientists. Your competitors aren't other engineers. Your competitors are other companies that make an effort to impact the minds of youth. And they spend hundreds of millions of dollars a year to grab these kids, when you guys should be doing that too. It's important, especially the way the world's going now, when artificial intelligence in 20 years, a robot will be smarter than my 7-year-old niece when she's 27. That sounds giggly and we can laugh at that, but that's a fact. When years ago, a computer was a job, and now it's an appliance. 20 years from now, an engineer could potentially just be an appliance. So it's important for you guys to outreach and grab these kids and be the cavalry to save their lives, so they don't just have the choice between entertainment and sports, that they want to be engineers and mathematicians. And you guys have to make your superheroes celebrities. Popular culture doesn't do that. You guys have to make your Dean Kanans, Michael Jordans, and it's an investment. Our industry does it with the Academy Awards, and we all sit and watch it, and they're boring, and it breaks, we sit and watch it. You guys should compete in this world of popularity, because the things you invent change the world, but the ones you invented are rendered invisible, and it's nobody's fault but you guys'. Thanks.